Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to do the front brakes on your vehicle. What I have here is a 2008 Jeep Wrangler. You can see I'm running oversized tires, so obviously the brakes wear out pretty quick since these are just stock brakes and calipers and pistons and everything else in there. So either way, I'm going to get to it. First thing we need to do is jack the front of the Jeep up and put it onto jack stands. Always use a manufacturer's recommended lift points, which will be your frame. Don't ever try to lift by anything else. More than likely it'll give out, and that's bad news. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this thing up and we'll get the tires off. See there? Take the lug nuts off once it's supported up on jack stands, and that will take the tires off. Alright, now that we have the Jeep up on jack stands, you can see tires are off the ground. It's time to remove the tires, and we'll expose the brakes at that point. Alright, you can see there we've got the big tires off now, and that exposes the brakes. You can see there they're pretty low, however they're not completely gone yet. Like I said, I like to do a little bit of preventative maintenance. You can see there the pad has still got a little bit of life left, but better to change them now than have to wait until they get really bad, then they ruin your rotor here. Always a good time when you're doing a brake job just to inspect all the other pieces of your suspension and everything. You see this boot right here is looking a little stretched, so that might be something in the future to concentrate our attention on. However, everything else in here looks pretty good. But first things first, what we're going to do is on the back side of your caliper here, you can see there's a bolt right here that has that runs into the actual mounting bracket. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this bolt and the bottom bolt, and that should allow this whole assembly right here to come back, and then we can secure it up out of the way while leaving this bracket right here in place. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, of course, whenever you go to take this bolt off, you're going to need a wrench to hold this little nut right here on the back side. Just like that. You can see I've already started on this one, loosening it up. Basically, I'm just going to go ahead and take the back portion of the bolt off. So you get it going, should be able to take it off by hand. Just like that. That's all it is. Do the same on the bottom side here. This little tap with our rubber mallet. Make sure it's nice and on there good. Alright, you can see there it's free now. That allows this plunger to go back and forth, and should allow us to slide this right off. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist this up, kind of set it up out of the way. Alright, precautionary measure. I'm going to get a bungee cord. I'm going to secure this up here. That way it doesn't ever have an attempt to fall down on me while I'm working on the brakes here. So just like that, just enough to hold it up there. Alright. So now you can see the brake pads themselves. One on each side. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to pry these guys out. You don't want to use any kind of material like a screwdriver or anything like that to try to get them out. They should just fall out on their own like this guy. So you can see that was pretty well worn, just about at the end of its life cycle. Hadn't quite hit this little thing right here, which is called the squealer, as I like to refer to it. That's what makes that screeching sound to let you know your brakes have gotten really low. Usually by that point you're already starting to damage the rotor though. So like I said, there's no screwdriver or anything needed. If you just wiggle these back and forth, you can usually get them to come out pretty easily. Just like that. Now is a good time to inspect your rotor itself. Make sure that everything is okay with this guy. See there, backside still looks very nice. So got plenty of life left on it. Alright, now we're going to get the new brakes out and go ahead and get to installing them. Alright, next up everybody is going to take this brake parts cleaner. Just kind of spray off these little tabs right here, which allow the brake pads to, that's what they slide on when they compress and when they release when you let off the brake. So make sure that's free of debris in there and everything. Sometimes dust gets built up in there. and dirt, grime, so on and such forth. So just spray that down just a little bit. It's okay if you get it on the rotor. We're going to wipe it off. Alright, get you a fresh rag. Just kind of clean these guys out. This is an aerosol-based, or alcohol-based, excuse me, product, so it's going to evaporate, so you don't have to worry about it getting on your rotor and damaging it. So another quick tip is to try not to touch the outside of the rotor. If you do, it'll leave a little fingerprint right there. That's the oil from your skin on the metal, and it can actually cause your brakes to slip a little bit for the first couple times that you use it. So this is precautionary. Go ahead and just wipe it down. Make sure it's all nice and clean before you put the new brakes on. So alright, so I have the new brake pads here, and you can see quite a bit of difference in the length of them there. See how this one's much got a whole lot more meat to it than the other side. But before we go ahead and put these guys on, just to keep them from ever having the issue of falling out while we're doing this, we're actually going to go back to our caliper here and disconnect it from a little hanging device. What we have to do is we have to push this plunger back inside, okay? And a lot of guys do this by just popping this little cap off and twisting this off. This is the bleeder for the brakes. Honestly, there's a very simple method to do this, and it involves a C-clamp. So what you want to do is you want to take one of your old pads, doesn't matter, go ahead and put it in there like this. Then we're going to take our C-clamp and we're actually going to compress it on the back side of this piston here against the front side, and it's actually just going to squeeze that all back in together, and that'll give us enough room to fit over our new pads, which are much thicker. Alright, we've got our C-clamp here. See, it's got a quick release button. It's the best type to get. Watch, I'll put it on the back side here. Make sure it's flushly mounted. Just like that. Of course, the front side, what we're going to do is we're just going to lightly turn it. You'll watch that plunger just start seeping back in there. Doesn't take a lot of force, it just takes consistency. Like I said, I'm not really doing it too hard or too fast, just gradually letting it go back in. This is the exact same concept as if you let off your brakes. We'll actually push this plunger back and allow the brakes to release. So, alright, we've just about got it all the way, about as far as it wants to go on its own. Go ahead and back this C-clamp off, discard the old plate here. Now you can see that the plunger is pushed all the way back up inside. Might want to just wipe this down, make sure it's free of debris or anything. Alright, see all it's nice and clean in there. Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to install our new pads. See here, all they do is they just slide right into these little channels, one right here and one on the bottom. Start with the front side so you can kind of see how it's done. Obviously it's going to have the curvature of the same, so what you want to do is you put the bottom in first, slide up the front at an angle, and then a little bit of pushing there, you'll see it'll fit right in place. And that's all there is to it. Make sure it's flush up against it in the back side, or this side back here, and the front side. Just push on it, make sure it's nice and flush. Touch the back side of my rotor, so I'm going to clean it back off now. Alright. And the same exact process for the back side here. Put the bottom in first. Should just slide right into place. Alright, now we can squeeze them together with our hands, make sure on there nice and tight. You can see there now. Alright, now we've got our pads on there nice and secure. What we're going to do is we're going to take this caliper and we're going to twist it back around, put it right back on like it was initially, and then we'll proceed from there with tightening it up. Alright, since I flipped it over, I want to do the exact same. When I put it back on, just like this, make sure my pads are nice and tight on there. It should, if you've compressed your piston far enough, it should just slide right into place. Move this little guy out of the way. Same with the bottom. You can see there now it's setting in place and still has about a 1/4 inch gap, so we know that we've compressed it just far enough. Remember these bolts that we took out of these little rings right here? We're going to go ahead and reinstall those. So you have to line up your caliper. We'll just go ahead and start threading these guys on there. You don't want to cross thread them. Start with my bottom one too. Alright. Alright, there we go. It started to cross thread at first, so I wanted to just reverse it, threading it for a minute and then tighten it back in. Alright, now you can see what this does is it moves back and forth. We're going to go ahead and tighten that up. Remember, use this little wrench right here. Okay. These don't need to be extremely tight to the point that you're, you know, busting a gut trying to tighten it up. What you want to do is make sure it's fairly tight, though. Just give it a nice little torque there, and that should do it. So, use my rubber mallet, get this back off of here. All right, go ahead and do the bottom side here. Just like that. Go ahead and get this guy back off. Okay. And that is one side on how to do your brakes. I'll flip it around and give you another demonstration on the other side so you can see exactly how that side works, but it's exactly the same as this one, just everything's on the opposite side. So, alright, now we're on the driver's side here. You can see I've already removed the wheel and everything. And it's time to take this caliper off so we can remove the old brake pads. So right up here on, of course, the top and the bottom, just the same as the other side, we're going to have another one of these nuts. So what you want to do is go ahead and get your wrench into place. We're going to remove this guy. I'm going to use my mallet here to help us out. Alright, that side's loose. Alright, once you loosen them up, you should be able to just freely unthread them by hand. May have to hit it with the socket once or twice. Okay. Alright, and again on this side we'll need to take the caliper off, so you can just literally pull these back just a hair and they should stay for a second, and then you'll be able to just wiggle this caliper off. Just like that. We want to set it straight up top here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my bungee cord so I can reattach this back up and hold it out of the way so it doesn't have any threat of falling. Alright, we got the bungee cord here. Go ahead and, actually we'll do it this way. Secure this back up here, out of the way. Alright, and that should hold it just in case I were to bump it and it were to fall. But now we can get back to changing out these brake pads. Now, once again, I've seen a lot of people take screwdrivers and shove them in here and try to pry these guys out, but they should just come out on their own, by hand. Like I said, take the top portion out, then just pull it straight out, and the whole thing will come out that way. So, alright, we got the second one off. You can see they're pretty low. Not too bad, but still need to be changed. Wipe off the rotor, make sure everything's nice and clean. On the other side, I showed you how to take your brake parts cleaner here and spray these little channels, because they do attract debris sometimes, and then the pad doesn't flow freely back and forth as it should, and you'll hear like this light scraping sound from the brakes that are still touching the rotor itself. So clean every single one of these. Remember, this is alcohol-based brake parts cleaner is, so it just literally evaporates before you can usually get into wipe it all out there. So, all right, got this guy all nice and cleaned up there. Now it's time to put the new pads on, but first we want to compress our piston here. So I'm going to take this guy down, get it right here where we can see it. Remember, take one of your old pads. I like to use the front pad because it doesn't have the little squealer on it. Go ahead and put it straight up just like that. Take our clamp here. Turn it so we can see it from a side angle. Just like that. So do it this way this time so you can see it goes both ways. Alright. Just lightly start tightening this. Alright. Like I said, it doesn't take much force. We just need to compress it back in. This is a hydraulic system, so basically we're reversing the hydraulic system. That's why we want to go nice and easy. Alright, once you push it just about as far as it'll go in, start giving you a little bit of resistance, and that's when you know to stop. Go ahead and loosen this guy up, take it off. See, our piston now is completely pushed back in where it's initially supposed to be. And it's time for the new pads to go on so we can bring this back down and reattach everything. Alright, we got our brand new pads here. Just as a educational portion. This little thing on the back is your squealer. Make sure that's always on the back side. You don't ever want it on the front side because it can interfere with all of the wheel and everything up here. So always make sure it's on the back side. Of course, it's got a curvature on the pad which matches the curvature of the rotor here. Put the bottom end first, and then the front should just slide in. Same as the other side. There we go, nice and tight. Same with the front side here. What we got to put is our the bottom tab in first. And then we should be able to maneuver the front where it needs to go and then just slide it in. Make sure they're nice and tight up against the rotor to start with because we need plenty of room for this to slide over top. So we'll go ahead and put this back to its original location. Just like that. Alright. Now it's time to take these little bolts out that we took out initially, put them back in. Alright. Try to thread it as far as you can by hand, that way you know that you're not cross-threading it. This one in here now. Now we can use the wrench again to tighten these up. Alright, there's one. Of course, you don't want to torque these down as hard as you can, but it is a good idea to give them some pressure. So nice and torqued, about like that right there. Didn't put my entire body weight into it, but I did get it pretty good, so I'll do that. Just got to get this wrench off of here. Alright, now we've got our new pads on, we've got our calipers reinstalled back on, and it's time to literally bolt the wheel back up. Some people prefer to bleed the brakes at this point. I regularly check the maintenance of my vehicle, so I know that my brakes were nice and firm beforehand. There should be no change in that now, since I did not disconnect the brake line to let any air in. All I did was just compress that plunger, which pushes the fluid back up through the lines and doesn't add any air to the system, so I should know that it should be okay. All right, so I'm gonna get the wheels thrown back on this thing, and that's literally it for the front brakes. One thing I do caution you with before you get going, just driving straight out of your driveway and down the road, is pump the brakes 3 or 4 times in the driveway. It'll feel kind of soft at first, and that's just this plunger kind of pushing everything all back together. So pump them 4 or 5 times until they firm back up, and then go ahead and start driving. You should be just fine. All right, thanks for watching on how to complete changing your front brakes. Hope you all have a good day.